Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. On low. Put it on low and no oscillation. That's it. And pull that up. Pull it up. That's it. Perfect. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahamsa Purajikacharya Astotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Purajikacharya Astotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So one note before we begin. Yesterday we had, for some reason, a lot of people. And there you are. Do you have a mask? You need a mask. That's what I was just going to talk about. Sorry. Yeah, we have masks. You have your mask. Okay. Yeah, you can get it for sure. So I'll wait till everyone's back. Talk about the masks. Why don't we all have masks? I don't have a mask. You don't have a mask. Mukunda doesn't have a mask. So some of us live here. I don't live here, but I'm basically here. And so we don't meet other people and maybe carry, and so we don't wear masks. But our guests have to wear masks, especially in the kirtan. The kirtan is when everyone's projecting and, like that. So that's why if there's a lot of people without masks, I'm leading the kirtan, I'm going to be 5 feet from that fan. It's going to be going second. It'll blow everything away. But really, we should be serious because I think that's what happens. People say, well, not everyone's wearing a mask here, so no. Because I know when there's a kirtan, you're less likely to want to wear a mask. But that's the most important time to wear a mask. So I'll mention it to Mukunda, and you should watch it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 29th day of September 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 2, Contents of the Gita Summarized, page 89, text 22. You don't have a book yet? We have so many books. Oh, you got your book. Okay. All right. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tatashadirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani sangyati navani dehi. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani sangyati navani dehi. Vasangsi jirnani hita vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani sangyati navani dehi. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani sangyati navani dehi. Go ahead. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyati sangyati navani dehi. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani sangyati navani dehi. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani sangyati navani dehi. Go ahead, Guru. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyati sangyati navani dehi. Go ahead, Ed. Give it a shot. Vasangsi jirnani yata vihaya. Navani gunnati naro parani. Tata sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyati sangyati navani dehi. Vasangsi garments, jirnani old and worn out. Yata just as, vihaya giving up, navani new garments, gunnati does accept, naraha a man, aparani others, tata in the same way, sharirani bodies, vihaya giving up, jirnani old and useless, anyani different, sangyati verily accepts, navani new sets, dehi the embodied. Translation. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Purport. Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact.
Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous changes of body which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in a previous verse, 213. Transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the supersoul. The supersoul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mundaka Upanishad as well as the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, compare the soul and the supersoul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird, and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master, and the other is the servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another, or from one body to another. The jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Both the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.2 and the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 4.7 confirm this. I'll say, you say. Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nishaya shochati mukyamanaha jushtam yada pashyatyam nisham asya mahimanam iti vita shokaha. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend the Lord and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar... All right, close the door, please. Insane. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. Om Jnana Timbrandasya Jnanandjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Dr. Glenn, a little more. It's just too much. So this is another famous verse Prabhupada would often quote, and it gives a very cogent analogy for our changing of the body, comparing the body to an old coat or an old garment of any kind that we would discard. And Vasangsi Jirinana Yata Vihai, just as one gives up some old jacket or some chadar or whatever you may wear and gets a new one, similarly the soul gives up old bodies and gets a new body. Sometimes Prabhupada would compare the body to the gross and subtle body to the coat and shirt. You know, the living entity is irreducible particle of spirit, and we're surrounded or covered by two levels of material body. The first one, and more significant, is the subtle body, the mind, intelligence, and ego. And the outer is what we commonly call the body, or the gross body made of flesh and blood, etc. So it's explained in the 15th chapter, as I mentioned last night, that there's a little description of transmigration of the soul. It's very graphic. That the living entity is part and parcel of Krishna. Mama vangso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Manakshishtan indriyani prakritistani karshati. That mama eva angsha, that all living entities are my angsha, meaning the little part and parcel. And that is, we have the qualities of Krishna in minute degree, just as the sun ray has the qualities of sunshine, a little heat, a little bit of light, drop of the ocean water has the saltiness and everything, but the difference in quantity is vast. So having those qualities of Krishna, one of those is eternal life. We don't die and we aren't born. We've just learned that in text 20. So what happens? Well, eventually the material body breaks down. It's a machine. That's described in the 18th chapter. What is that? Ishvarak savabhutani yantaru Ishvarak savabhutanam rideshayojana tishtati brahmayan savabhutani yantarudani mayaya. Yantra means a machine. So the living entity is mounted on this machine made of the material energy and made by the material energy. And within that machine are the two souls. We are there, and also the super soul, the Ishvara. Ishvarak sarvbhuteshe rideshe, in the region of the heart. And so when as it must, the machine, as every machine, stops working eventually, and you can't fix it anymore. So then what happens to the living entity? We leave, and we're carried by that subtle body into another gross body. And this is where the special quality of the human life comes in, is that during our lifetime, we can perform activities to cultivate a certain kind of subtle body, a certain kind of consciousness. Most people don't know about that, and they simply act according to their desires, their fears, emotions, and things, and direct their knowledge this way, try to cultivate some kind of a knowledge, get a degree, this and that. But all this time, they're creating a certain set of thoughts and desires. And the most prominent one, is what determines your next life. What is that? Yang vapi smarang bhavam jajajante kalevanam tamdame laitikondaya sadatod bhavavata. In the 8th chapter, it's the central principle. Yang, when you have this verb, it says whatever bhava, whatever is your most prominent thought and most prominent state of consciousness. Krishna says that you remember, that will determine your next life. And therefore, antakale tamameva smaran mukta kalevaram sapriyati samadbhavam yata shankshya, there's no doubt that if you can remember me at that time, you'll come to me. So Krishna consciousness is simply between now and that inevitable moment when we have to give up the mortal coil, give up the old clothes, as it said here, and take on a new form. Then if we've cultivated Krishna consciousness, then that form will be our Siddha Sarup. It will be our Sarup Siddhi, or our original spiritual form that we've forgotten all about, but it's been in there all this time. So that's more or less what's being talked about here. But Krishna is, in many different ways, he's describing that the body dies, but the soul never dies, the person never really dies, and therefore that should not be your prime consideration. It's certainly a very important consideration, and when none of this chapter encourages wanton violence against others, living entities. The default position for every devotee is to respect every living entity, even an ant, or that's not trying to hurt you. Then you don't. You try to take him outside so he doesn't inadvertently get squashed. What to speak of intentionally killing animals for eating them? It's unthinkable. There's a sentient being in there, the same as us. When you actually understand that, it says it's horrific. All of this wanton slaughter of animals just to satisfy the tongue. I was a vegetarian before I joined. I've been a vegetarian 50 years, still breathing, walking, So it's absolutely unnecessary. All of this wanton slaughter, and chickens. My God, why the poor chickens? Millions and millions, even more than cows, Completely unnecessary. Plus, it's killing the planet. It's the main source of greenhouse gases, one of the main. So anyway, this is a very graphic statement, and then we get again the idea of the two birds in the tree. Now that's so important because that introduces the role of the super soul as an observer and a sanctioner, and also the giver of intelligence. He says in the 15th chapter, I give remembrance and knowledge and forgetfulness also. So when the super soul is of course a plenary expansion of Krishna, and he's perfectly ready to give us good instruction. He's trying to give us good instruction, but we won't hear it. So he comes from outside in the form of the Shastra, in the form of the Guru, in the form of Krishna himself, to give us the same instruction. So it's incumbent upon us to take advantage of that instruction and to reform our life so that this will be our last embodiment. Wouldn't that be great? No more having to carry around this weight. The body is really a big restriction on the soul. The soul is more brilliant than 1,000 suns, lives forever, is full of bliss. You can't realize that in this kind of material body. It's a big restriction. But it's a special form, the human form. Because in this form we have the brain, we can understand it, we can cultivate the intelligence to direct our activities in the proper way. So that's what the Bhagavad Gita is going to teach us here. So now we're going to have a bunch of more verses describing the nature of the soul. Okay, we can go on. Text 23. Nainam chindandi shastrani Nainam dahiti pavakaha Nachayanam kledayantyapo Nashoshayati marutaha. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Purport. All kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapon of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were counteracted with water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have any knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces, nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance, and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Excuse me. Because they are atomic individual souls eternally, sanatan, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord, just as the sparks of a fire, although one in quality with the fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to the Bhagavad Gita also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Krishna, but he never became one with Krishna. So this is a recurring theme, is that we are not only eternal, but we are eternally anksha. We are eternally minute. Energy, actually prakriti. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Krishna, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, he answers this question of Sanatana Goswami, which we should all ask, and which Krishna is answering here. Who am I? What am I? And why am I suffering in this material world? And how can I end the suffering? So the answer to that question is this very famous verse, Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tatasta Shakti Beda Beda Prakash. All of those elements are important to understand. So the first part of the answer is that we're all by nature Our Sarup is to be servants of Krishna. Now we've lost that understanding, but then we're still servants. Servants we must be. We think we're in the illusion that we're masters, but we're really servants. Just like this body has to be served constantly. Now many people are aware of the breathing more than they usually are, because of the COVID. But you have to serve the body, and you have to take the mercy of the Lord in the form of breathable air. Right? Northern California, the air isn't so breathable. Suddenly it's a huge problem. Am I getting sick now with days and days and days of this air pollution? So the body needs our attention and our care practically at every moment. So we're dependent. We're servants of the body. And we're servants of extensions of the body. And this is our nature, service. But the problem is when we serve our senses, the demands of the senses, then we dig ourselves deeper into the hole of delusion and pain and suffering. Because we're simply, don't forget, it's the consciousness that will determine your next body. So if the consciousness is all absorbed in gross and subtle material pleasures and avoiding material pains, then that's going to be your consciousness when you leave the body. And there are bound to be, by the nature of sense gratification, there are bound to be so many unfulfilled desires, so much regret, so much lamentation. What I could enjoy when I was young, now I can't enjoy it anymore. And I remember, my mother, she passed away at 96. And so much I would go visit her regularly. She was living in Ithaca. I would fly out to my brother's house. He lived nearby. And it was all like, the old, photo albums she had. She grew up from, she was born in 1910. And so it was all these black and white photos, And those would be, she would go over those every day, so much memories, So that's a typical life, Now, of course, people take videos, but it's still the same idea. You lose as you grow older. The body becomes unable to enjoy like it used to, and it becomes a source of misery. So many, without warning, the pain arises here and that. You notice? Yeah. Those of us who got on in years, where did that come from? Now what am I going to do? Oh my God, what happened to my leg over there? It's just one thing after another. So you can imagine if you don't have Krishna, or to help transcend and realize your internal life. What a desperate situation. You don't know there's another life. You may have some vague faith in life after death, but you don't really know. All you know is this life. You've forgotten previous life. And so basically all those experiences you had, those pleasures and those high emotional, they're what you remember. Some of them, you're relieved. They're over. Many of them you wish you could experience again. But alas, you don't have the capacity anymore. That person is gone. It's just a lot of regret. A lot of depression. So that's, it's all part of this illusory energy. And the big mistake of forgetting that we're spiritual beings. But if you actually have some Krishna consciousness, and you can connect to Krishna through the process of bhakti yoga, then it's not as terrifying, and it's not as painful. You realize that, those pleasures, come and go, material pleasures come and go. But the spiritual pleasure of Krishna consciousness is a constant. You can imagine, it's very scientific. If you're developed in Krishna consciousness enough, so simply by remembering Krishna, what to speak of hearing and chanting about him, but basically remembrance and thinking of Krishna, you can feel so much pleasure because you've developed or revived your original relationship with Krishna. Then what is the real terror of death? That's going to go on. If your consciousness is the source of your pleasure. But if you're depending on the senses, contacting the sense objects, that's very iffy. It has to be, everything has to be just right. The senses have to be functioning properly. You have to be able to get the object. You have to have the facility to enjoy it, And then it goes. And then the enjoyment goes anyway. It's fleeting. So it's completely unsatisfying for the soul. we are by nature eternally full of bliss. Anandamayo Bhyasat, that is our heritage, that is our nature, and we've lost touch with it. So if we begin to even partially get back to that mood where any time, any place, just like Prahlad says, Naivo Dvijay, Padadadatya Vaitaranyas, he's praying to Nrsingadev. Naivo Dvijay, Padadadatya Vaitaranyas, Tadvirya Gayana Mahamrata Magna Chitta. Na, what is it? Na Udvijay, Naivo Udvijay, Na Eva Udvijay. Udvijay means disturbed. My mind is never disturbed, O Lord, because I'm with you. You're across the river Vaitarani. You're in the spiritual world. And my consciousness is with you. So any time, any place, I can chant your glories and immerse my mind in an ocean of nectar. So how can I be disturbed? I've already shown, he didn't say anything, but he said, I showed with my father being boiled in a vat of oil. Try to imagine what it's like to keep your equipoise in that situation. But he was so transcendental, so fully Krishna conscious, that he didn't feel anything. Tremendous power there. His father freaked out when he saw that they couldn't crush him, couldn't cut him, couldn't burn him, couldn't poison him. Nothing. Where did you get your power? Tell me, where did you get your power? Same place you did, Father. From God. I don't want to hear about the God. You say he's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? Let me see him. Bam! And comes the Shingadev. Very dramatic. So that's a case of an extraordinary devotee. But still, that shows the power of being so firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness that nothing can disturb you, including approaching death. And we had an example recently, with the departure of Shamali. I've always maintained that you don't really know, how advanced someone is, because if you're in the right situation for those last weeks, say, before you depart, you can make a lot of advancement there. You can make a lot of advancement. There's no opportunity for sense gratification. That's a total bust, But if you're surrounded by the right people, you have the opportunity. You can become so absorbed in Krishna consciousness. And her father was there. Yamuna Pati was there. And it was just like she was, she stopped breathing. There was no terror. There was no pain. There was no crying. And she just stopped breathing, and it was like someone came to take her away. Your plane is here. Let's go. And so that's a blessed departure. We should all worship that and try to, meditate. So what was how did that happen? Of course, she was a wonderful devotee, but she relied on her spiritual master was, talking to her for hours on the phone from Vrindavan, and she had her friends there, and all people, giving her Krishna consciousness. She, of course, just hearing Krishna Katha. I called her up a couple of times, and I read this poem once, Kunkamakta Kanchanabja Garvahari Gaurabha. It's about prayer for Radharani. May Radhika bestow on me the service of her lotus feet. And she loved to hear that. That's all she wanted to do, is hear those and other Krishna Katha. So the point I'm making is that it's not out of the realm of possibility that we can actually go back to God this lifetime. And the foundation is this understanding that we're eternal. We cannot be killed. It's a great relief to know that our life is eternal. That we're not going to die. But then incumbent upon us is to really take seriously the prospect and the process of Krishna consciousness, so we can leave our body successfully and not come back again. That's what Prabhupada really encouraged us. Yes, you can go back to Godhead. How many times did he say to do it? Okay. Notice there's all of these battlefield things going on. Weapons, that's describing. There's more of that in the next verse. Go ahead, Ravi. Oh, we have yeah.
Prabhuji, I'm also curious to know about the subtle body. Here, Prabhupada is explaining about the transformations of the gross body.
Uh-huh.
About the subtle body, are there also some fixed transformations that happen within the same life, and if not within the same life, over a period of
Transformations of the subtle body of the mind and intelligence?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the mind and intelligence are going through all kinds of changes. I mean, we can experience even, aside from Krishna consciousness, what is education? Education is an attempt to train the mind, intelligence, to take in certain information, and so that you'll see yourself in the world differently, you'll be able to live successfully in the world, you'll understand so many things. Just language. A child is born, doesn't speak, but those first 5 years, they're absorbing so many things. You learn how to talk your mother tongue. Your mother is teaching you how to talk about it. So the subtle body is being trained, it's being changed there. The problem is that without this kind of knowledge and this kind of training in Krishna consciousness, that it's all governed by the modes of nature, and so you have a certain language, a certain sense of identity. Oh, who am I? Oh, I belong to this family. I belong to this race. I belong to this country. You identify with the body in so many of its extensions and definitions like that. These are called upadhis, or false designations that we place. So right near the beginning of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami says, well, bhakti means acting and understanding beyond these upadhis. Sarvapadi vinu muktam, tatparetvaina nirmalam, being purified of that. I mean, I'm not sitting here thinking, okay, I'm a 71-year-old white male from the United States. I live in SanDiego. That doesn't have anything to do with how I live and what I think. Just like in a kirtan. Kirtan, you can more easily forget about, your social position. Oh, I'm a 7-year bhakta. I've been around for 10 years. That doesn't make any difference. Even sannyasis jump. We have, they're jumping around. Sometimes they carry the pole. Sometimes they give it up. But it's just like you're dancing and chanting for Krishna. It's on the spiritual platform. So really, that's the healthy platform. And so each day, each moment of each day, where our subtle body is changing, our gross body is changing. When we are consciously changing that subtle body and using our gross body according to the tenets of Krishna consciousness, that's when we're making progress on our prospect to go back to Godhead. We have a freedom. What are we going to think about? What are we going to hear? What are we going to chant? What are we going to read? Who are we going to hang out with? That's our freedom is there. We have the free choice. Now, according to how you make a certain set of people that you hang out, the music you listen to, the chances are that you'll want to do that again. These are my buddies. This is what I'm going to do. But that can be disastrous. You're hanging out with people. Like I like to point out, there's still a bar down here. There's been a series of bars. Now there's like a pizza bar, beer and also liquor, So it's very close, So people have a choice. That place, there are plenty of people. A lot more people come there than come here, especially in COVID. And they wouldn't come here. They pass by, oh, that's the harekrishnas. They wouldn't give it two thoughts. And no devotee is going to go in there, right? It's a whole different mode. It's a different set of consciousness. So why is that? Because they've cultivated that. They weren't trained. They didn't get the seed of bhakti. So it's all, and everybody is riding along. This is the big highway here. So they're in the car, but then they're also in their personal car, and they have a certain set of consciousness that's moving where they're going and what their mission is. I drive a car from my apartment down to the Grand laundry place. It's less than a mile, So it looks like I'm doing a regular thing, but I got to clean my laundry, so I can have clean clothes to go to Mangalarti and everything, So it looks like the same activity, but it's a world of difference because the subtle motivation is different and everything. So that yes, the gross body is certainly changing, but the subtle body is also changing, and we have a certain amount of freedom, especially in human life, to how those changes will be transformed for our ultimate benefit. Yes, Prabhu. Sure. No, but the thing is, it's good for the outside. Thank you.
Yeah. Hello. Hare Krishna. So, Prabhu, two questions that are connected. It's a big universe, right? Big cosmos, infinite.
Huge.
And is there anything special about this planet that Krishna was born here. So many other demigods, they also got here.
Why did he pick this planet?
Why they picked this planet? And secondly, we are all born, like whosoever sitting us or whosoever we know, we are all born in this Kali Yuga, right? Are we the unlucky ones, or we were also there in Satyug?
Well, I mean, the chances are very high that we've been in the material world for quite a long time. That's that's kind of a default. But we're very fortunate that we appeared on the earth, because this earth contains the replica of Vrindavan. So Krishna comes to this earthly plane. There's so many universes with similar planets that he appears on. The way it's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada, is like there's a series, like Janmashtami is happening right now in some universe, some earthly planet in some universe, because there's all of these material universes. And then after it happens, it's happening again in another planet like that. But it's only been 5,000 years that since Krishna actually came. And how often does he appear on the earthly planet? Once every 8,600,000,000 some odd million years. Once in every day of Brahma. Then Brahma lives a long time, and his day is 24 hours is 8,600,000,000 something. So what's that? 5,000 years ago is a snap of a finger compared to that. What to speak of? Lord Chaitanya, this Kali Yuga. When Krishna appears, then Lord Chaitanya, Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya. So that's only 500 years ago. I mean, that's recorded history. That's there's no question. So we're very fortunate in that we're practically contemporaries, and of course, super fortunate that Prabhupada came, and so forth. So we have this chance. So the idea is that, having been given the knowledge and having the chance to perform Krishna consciousness, having association, we should grab the opportunity and try as hard as we can to make as much advancement as we can. But yeah, it's in one sense, of course, it's Kali Yuga. That's unfortunate. But this Kali Yuga is worshipped by the demigods. Kaling sabaji and yaya guna gyasarabhaginaha yatra sankirtane naiva sarvasvarto bilabhyate. This verse appears a few verses after the very famous verse, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam, which is shastric support for Lord Chaitanya being the Yuga avatar. Krishna Varnam Tvisha, he's come. Now what does Krishna Varna mean? Well, that's, it can mean different things. But our acharyas say, it means he's uttering the syllables, Krishna, Krishna. Or he belongs to the category of Krishna. In other words, he is Krishna himself. A Varna is, a class. So this avatar is uttering Krishna's name, but his complexion is not blackish like the original Krishna. It's golden, and he appears with his angas, his intimate, like limbs, like Lord Nityananda, Advaita, and also the Parishads, other circle of intimate devotees. How should he be worshipped? Yatra Sankirtana, Sangopangastra Parashadam Yagyar Sankirtana Prayar, chiefly, not solely, but chiefly through Sankirtan Yagya, congregational chanting. Yajanti Hisumeda said, those who are intelligent will take up the Sankirtan movement. And then a few verses later, one or two verses later, it describes how this Kali Yuga is worshipped by those who are Aryans and really understand the essence of things. Kaling Sabhajiyam Yaya Guna Gya, understand the quality, Sadabhagina, get to the essence of the thing. Why? Because simply by Sankirtan, in this age, one can achieve the Swarta, one's actual goal of the soul. You can achieve everything you want. Love of Godhead, go back to Godhead. And it's so easy, Some of the austerities described in different parts of the Bhagavatam are inconceivable for us. Hiranyakashipu, of course, we wouldn't want to do that. But still, even what Dhruva did, different yugas. But Sankirtan, just show up, If you need, you can get earplugs, like I said. But chant, dance, chant the holy name and become purified. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we have time for a couple more. So he reiterates this from 23 to 24, a little more, and adds some information. Achedyoyam adayoyam akledyo shosha evacha Nityak Sarvakatagstanur Achaloyang Sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Purport. All these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit whole, and he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the Personality of Godhead. The word sarvagata, all-pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable, because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. So I remember years and years ago, maybe you remember this, Ed, you know, there's sometimes there are volcanoes in the ocean. You know, there are eruptions there. I remember reading, I think it was nearby here, because they have this big trench near here. There's I think up there by Scripps. There's a lot of, underwater stuff. And they discovered some vent from it was boiling hot water, superheated. And it was much hotter than boiling water because it's under pressure. It was thousands of feet deep, you know what I'm saying? And so they were able to capture some of that water. They sent some vehicle down there. I don't know if it was manned or unmanned, whatever. And they wanted to analyze what's in that, coming out of those vents and everything. And they found, to their great surprise, that there was some bacteria in there, even though it was so hot. They had somehow evolved, according to them, that they could live in that. And it was like they had to rewrite, various things, because there's a sense that, at that temperature, 200, 300 degrees or more Fahrenheit, nothing can live, apparently. But it could live. And so, it makes sense. We have bodies that are suitable for living on land, obviously. And just a half mile away is the ocean. We can't live in the ocean. The fish can nicely live in the ocean. Of course, we're ballooning it and killing all the fish, but that's another thing. But, generally, and if they come on the land, then they die. If we go in the ocean, we die. So similarly, there are, and so the bodies we have a body that's constructed for that. So we learn that in higher planets, the bodies are different. Like Brahma's body, how can he live so long? 311 trillion years, it's inconceivable. Because his body is almost all intelligence, predominantly. Our body is mostly water, right? And a higher percentage of earth. And there's air circulating, But his body is made differently. So why is it so inconceivable that there can't be bodies made of fire? Living entities everywhere. The sun planet, So anyway, that's what this is saying. When we, in the history of this Bhagavad Gita, this word sarvagata was originally, instead of present everywhere, was said all-pervading. But that sounds like we're all-pervading. Are you all-pervading? No, as living entities, there are living entities everywhere. That's what it means. So present everywhere, sarvagata. We go anywhere. So, he reiterated the idea of can't be cut, can't be burned, dried. These are the general ways that bodies are killed, but living entity cannot be. So there's reiterating that. Okay, one more. Avyaktoyam achintoyam avikarya yamuchate tasmad evam viditvainam nanushochitamarhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he's invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish his existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways, just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly, without error. Yes, and there's been quite a fair amount of repetition in this description of the soul, which we're coming to an end to in a few verses. We'll finish it tomorrow. But it's this achintayam avikarya muchate. So avikarya, no changes. This is a big thing, that the soul is never changed, unlike the body, and certainly inconceivable. That's even one verse. What does it say? Ascharyavat pashiti kashanayinam. It's coming up. Even after hearing about the soul, people find it inconceivable. But it's the only thing that makes sense. As we had that verse near the beginning, Dehinosmin yada dehe. You can all understand that we've been growing since childhood. We can remember those days, even have pictures, right, of a different body. And so we can remember, I remember I used to think this, boy, was I stupid at that time. I was just a kid. I didn't know anything. But that was you. That's the same you, right? So what's you? What was the you about it? The body's completely changed. I happened to come across a picture when I was 5 years old. I got it in black and white. All right, so I had a certain number of ideas, and then obviously gave all that up. So the mind has changed. Body has certainly changed. What hasn't changed? You, the knower of the body, the knower of the mind. That's clearly intuitive way. But that's induction, really. But beyond that, the words of the great acharyas, coming down, they accept the Bhagavad Gita, right? Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all the great acharyas are going back, Ramanujacharya, Lord Chaitanya. Yes, the soul exists and the super soul exists. So on that basis, we accept it as a truth. Because who are we to say, no, they're all made a mistake? On the basis of what? The fact that you can't see the soul and understand the soul. So this is a really important point. This is the first thing. I mean, the truth of God and all of that He is even more amazing than the soul. But this is our ultimate pramanam. Remember, we've quoted this verse, and I'll end with this. The last verse of the 16th chapter. Tasmat Shastra. Where does it go? Tasmat Shastram Pramanam Te Gharyakar Vivastito Gyatva Shastra Vadanoktam Karma Karta Miharasi. Therefore, one should accept the Shastra as evidence for what we should do and what we should not do, and also for understanding the soul and God and everything else. And having understood it, we should act according to the rules and regulations of Shastra as a matter of duty. So that's how things are going on. The faith reposed in the Shastra, and those who live the Shastra and give the Shastra. That's the foundation of our activity, our faith. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.